Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to try and answer the question of whether or not Marvel Future Fight is dry or stale, and why. And I want to start off this video by actually prefacing it with the following. You may not feel the same way that I feel or that other players feel as far as the game being dry or stale. I'm just going to use those two terms interchangeably because it's really a subjective thing. If you're a new player, you have 248 new characters to collect, 350 plus uniforms, you sort of get the deal. And there's pretty much players at every stage of the game, even veterans who may still feel that burning desire and passion to play this game hardcore and really go at it. And that's always going to be the case. Not everyone is going to feel the same way, but more now than I'd say at least in the last 6 months, there are a growing minority, a growing community of players who they still play the game, they still like the game. Sure, maybe they miss a login now and then, but they feel this, on their back, this sort of monkey on their back. The game is getting dry, the game is getting stale. So I want to try and tackle this with the added layer of commentary regarding game modes, because basically Marvel Future Fight boils down to two main game modes. There are literally the game modes that you play in the mission, challenge, arena, and co-op tab, and then there is the other game mode, which is collecting all of the characters and building them however you want, because whether we like it or not, and whether we want to admit it or not, at heart, if you're playing this game, you're a massive Marvel collector, and you want to catch them all, so to speak, in the Pokemon sense. So those are the two main ways that we experience content and we experience the game by collecting characters and decking them out, and then by taking said characters into said game mode. So really, when you boil it down, if the game is getting stale, it's either getting stale because stuff over here is not working as intended, or it's getting stale because stuff over here is not working as intended. Now, recently, with the X-Men update, yeah, you can say that there's been a bit of a drop in the quality of uniforms, the quality of reworks that we've gotten used to. Colossus was a swing and a miss. Mr. Sinister was a miss. Captain Britain Betsy Psylocke was pretty good. Emma's really good, but, Black Cat didn't really scratch that itch, so to speak. So I can get that. But by and large, on the other hand, this year, last year, even the year before that have been just banger years for Marvel Future Fight as far as characters go. New characters, character uniforms, the whole shebang. So I really don't think the problem is here as far as staleness goes. So if the problem is not with the characters, then the problem then has to lie with game modes. And this is a really difficult thing to tackle, which is why I'm actually trying to divide this topic into two videos, because there's so many game modes in Marvel Future Fight, even though we can boil them down into PvE, player versus environment, like random AI bosses, or PvP, player versus other players. Even if they're being controlled by AI, those players are being built, like those characters are being built by players. Because if you go into arena and you find my team, you're not going to be fighting, well, you'll be fighting the AI, but the AI will be controlling the team that I've set out right here with the builds that I have. Will I have Wolverine's artifact? Hint, yes. Do I have Emma Frost's artifact? Hint, not yet. And so on and so forth. So yeah, PvE, PvP, sure. But let's really take a step back now and try to analyze this from a macro perspective, because the game has been around for a long time. And so when you say, oh, the 7-year anniversary is coming up in 3 months, and then someone goes, well, then are you kind of surprised that the game is stale? You've been playing it for 7 years, Alex. Well, yes, but actually no, because game modes, and we're arguing here, have changed a lot over the years, at least some of them. So this is the first point I want to make, and this is really what I think is at the heart of a lot of the feelings that players have, is that on the one hand, here, this is crazy, check out this blast from the past, right? On the one hand, you have a game mode like World Boss, arguably the most popular game mode in Marvel Future Fight. If you look across all YouTube videos, across all content creators, the videos that get the most views are, of course, like tier list videos, of course, but then secondly would be videos explaining and detailing and going through the nuances of World Boss, and more recently, World Boss Ultimate and World Boss Legend. You sort of get the point. But look at this brutal UI, okay? I'm not doing this to, make you sympathize with Marvel Future Fight and really hit you in that, nostalgia bone here, but this is July 2nd, 2016. This is what World Boss looked like. There was 7 days of World Boss. There were 6 bosses, with Thanos being doubled up, with, a power-up on the last day, on Sunday, and that's basically it. That's what you had. And then a little while later, about a year and, well, less than a year later, we got World Boss Ultimate. And it was basically World Boss, except you had a more difficult two bosses that they later, I believe, added more of. And you could go in, and there were 5 phases rather than just one phase with one boss. And the co-op mission actually never came to fruition. It actually turned into World Boss Invasion, which we now know as like the one-shot game mode where it takes longer to load than play. Okay, I digress. That was April 2017. And then, more recently, and still now it feels like a long time away, but yeah, in April of 2018, so a year later, they reiterated and they introduced what we now know as World Boss Ultimate with this page right here. And look at that ugly boy, that Neanderthal with his head shaved. Oh, the times how they have flown by, the pre-pandemic days. Anywho, you're very familiar with this screen, except now we have the World Boss Legends, Null and Mephisto, and all of these bosses have that little red, white, and black icon underneath denoting World Boss Ultimate, which is what only Proxima had at the time. So as you can see, World Boss has gone through a massive facelift, not once, not twice, but thrice. Similarly, Shadowland used to look like this. I'm not going to get into the details here, but holy crap, does this look completely different, and it played differently too. Similarly, story mode. I can literally go on and on. So certain game modes, I would argue the game modes that are most popular and sort of the best game modes, the most refined game modes, surprisingly are not on their first iteration. This is the 3rd or 4th iteration of story mode we've seen in 6.5 years, and this is by far the best one. It may be too grindy, it may need autoplay, but it's still very, very good. This is by far the best game mode and one of the best game modes in any mobile game I've ever played. If you take it in a vacuum, it's nearly flawless. This has been iterated on multiple times. And that's where we start to see a giant collapse. There's a couple of other game modes I can mention, like I did mention Shadowland, and there's a couple of others. I mean, honestly, AB, Alliance Battle and Alliance Battle Extreme has been iterated on multiple times, and it's actually very good now. The rewards still suck. That's for the other video. But for this video, what I want to point out is we don't need to add new game modes. The game being stale, the game being dry, does not need a big injection of adrenaline, some brand new hype thing with flashing lights. It just needs a little bit of elbow grease and some effort from the devs to actually rework and iterate and reiterate on what they've already created. Why have we had, and I've said this so many times before, so I don't want to stress it too much here, but why have we had the same Alliance Conquest for 5 years, 5.5 years? This game mode came out it came out for the 2-year anniversary. We're coming up to the 7-year anniversary, my dog. This game mode has been iterated on a total of 1 time, and you can hardly call it an iteration. It was a lame costume DLC for Skyrim where they gave the horses armor type thing. It doesn't even count as an iteration, right? It's not a top to bottom facelift like we had here with phases and different mechanics and all this stuff, right? It's nothing like that. It's a very minor, and it's only for the top 100 alliances or the top whatever 50. It's not even for everybody. So this game mode by far, in my opinion, to me, needs the most reworking and the most elbow grease. But that sort of extends, right? Why haven't they? Well, they sort of reworked Danger Room when they added Danger Room Extreme. But again, this was introduced in August 2018. We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary this year for Danger Room. How many iterations? Okay, this game mode has never been iterated on. We got beat, that's okay. Alliance Tournament has never been iterated on. And so you get my point here. We don't need anything new that we don't already have. We just need what we already have to be improved. And that's really where I think the devs need to just buckle down and get it done. We should have more GBR bosses. We should have, improved, revamped rewards and different mechanics and structures and things like that. It's just brain dead. At this point, it's just painfully obvious to me after several hours of meditation, mind you. This did not come to me right away. And so it kind of pains me when we see new game modes like Timeline Survival and Dimension Rift hit us, although Dimension Rift is basically just a remix of an existing game mode from years ago, and they're coming out. As much as I like Timeline Survival, I could easily lose and say goodbye to both of them if it meant that we got reworks to 2 existing pieces of content, let's say Shadowland and Danger Room, or Alliance Battle and Alliance Conquest, or GBR and co-op, right? So that's basically what I'm trying to say here. And you know, I want to also point out something, because it sort of in a way captured my opinions and sort of didn't capture my opinions. There's this post on Reddit saying thoughts on the state of the game right now, and the state of this guy goes into detail. Ray is epic. I agree with some of the things they're saying. I disagree with some of the things they're saying. They focus a lot on characters and things like that, which again, I totally deviated from at the beginning of the video, because I don't think any of the staleness has to do, or you know, less than 10% of the staleness has to do with characters and reworks and things like that. But it's interesting. It's an interesting read. You know, you can go and check it out on the Reddit. It's one of the highest upvoted threads lately, because the amount of activity is very low given it's Reddit, and given that the game's been short of a big update recently. But it's also interesting to go through and read some of the comments, because one in particular, unfortunately, I can't show you the original post now, but Pink Chode here linked to this. You can read it you can read the essence of what the poster was trying to say from the title. The final MFF countdown, 1 year later, a look. And it was by this cretin named Geekonomics or something like that. I call them a cretin because they actually went and deleted the post. They deleted this actually is so funny. So less than 9 hours after, because I read this like 5 or 6 hours ago and it was still here. So, you know, just a few hours ago, they must have gotten some pings, some notifications from Reddit that their karma was getting hit, and they were like, oh no, my e-peen. So they jumped on over to Reddit, and I guess they took down their own thread. And I went on the Wayback Machine, and I could not find it. And it was hilarious. I gotta say, it was hilarious, because it soothed any fears I had of this game being stale, dry, on its last legs at all. And I've talked about this in other videos, pointing at the social media aspect, pointing out, you know, the frequency of updates and the quality of updates and things like that, and how this game easily has at least 2 more years to it before you even start talking about things like shutting it down. But basically this post, which again, I can't show you it now because the clown deleted it, was from 2018, I believe, or I think it was 2018. It was 3 years ago. Yeah, it was 2018. And they basically said that MFF was on its last legs in 2018. And that the introduction of tier 3s and all this was just a huge cash grab, and that the game would start introducing more expensive characters and more expensive uniforms, even worse than Black Panther's 3,300 crystal uniform, and that the game was basically headed for a cataclysmic, apocalyptic ending. And here we are, 3 years later, and none of that shit happened. Like, obviously, a couple of things, you know, if you throw blindly at a dartboard, you're gonna hit the board once or twice. So a couple of the things that person predicted to happen did happen, but on the flip side, you know, by and large, this game is still as good as ever. So what I want to leave you with, the thought I really want you to take away from this, is that while I do think the game is a bit stale, and I do think the game is a bit dry from my perspective, it's nowhere near the end of its life. However, if we want to extend that life even further, which I genuinely do, I definitely think the devs need to look inward rather than looking outward, rather than trying to give us shiny new toys like Timeline Survival and Dimension Rift. They need to look at the existing content that's most popular, Alliance Conquest, Shadowland, that has not been reworked, that has not been reiterated and iterated on for a while, and that's where they need to start, because that is where the heart of the player base lies, right? So many people still hum and haw about what Shadowland could be if it was really reworked the way that players are hoping it will be. So yeah, hopefully this, you know, gives a spark to the devs and really pushes them to work with what they got, because you know, 7 years later, and I still feel the same way about Marvel Future Fight. It is a really, really, really good game at its core. It has some flaws, but it's basically still clay spinning wet on that thing that clay people make and use. And you can still put your hands on it like in Ghost, and you can shape it into something magnificent, even more magnificent than it already is. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you think the game is stale, what you think of my analysis of game modes and things like that, and what your thoughts are on the game having not died after the 3-year anniversary. Thanks so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.